The restaurant was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and families celebrating together under the warm afternoon sunlight streaming through the large windows. Every table was occupied by smiling couples, grandparents surrounded by children, and friends enjoying meals that seemed to last forever. Yet among the crowd stood one man who had everything money could buy and absolutely no one to celebrate with. His expensive suit, polished shoes, and quiet confidence caught everyone's attention for a moment, but as soon as the hostess apologized that there were no available tables for a single guest, the room seemed to forget he even existed. It was his birthday. He had built an empire worth hundreds of millions, but on the one day he secretly wished someone would simply say, "Happy birthday," he found himself standing alone. Just as he prepared to leave with the same loneliness that had followed him for years, a gentle voice from across the dining room changed everything. A young single mother lifted her hand with a warm smile and quietly waved him toward her table. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to Kindness Hub if you believe that kindness and second chances can completely change a person's life. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that touch hearts around the world. The millionaire's name was Alaric Voss, a man whose success filled magazine covers but whose personal life remained hidden behind carefully built walls. Reporters admired his achievements, investors trusted his decisions, and employees respected his leadership, yet when business meetings ended, silence became his only companion. Years earlier he had lost both of his parents within months of each other while struggling to build his company. The endless work that followed became both his escape and his prison. Every birthday after that became another reminder that success could purchase luxury but never replace family. The young woman who had invited him over was named Maris Hale. She looked exhausted, though she tried her best to hide it behind a sincere smile. Sitting beside her was her 7-year-old son, Rowan, happily coloring on the back of the children's menu while waiting for lunch. Their clothes were simple but clean, and the little birthday cupcake sitting in front of Rowan suggested they were celebrating something important as well. Maris noticed the hesitation in Alaric's eyes and simply motioned toward the empty chair without making him feel embarrassed. Her invitation carried no pity. It carried simple human kindness. Alaric quietly accepted. The restaurant suddenly felt less crowded. For the first time in years, someone had offered him a place not because of his wealth or reputation, but because they saw another human being who should not spend his birthday alone. As lunch arrived, Rowan's cheerful curiosity slowly melted the awkward silence. The little boy talked about birds outside the window, his favorite books from the local library, and his dream of becoming an architect who would build homes where nobody ever felt lonely. His innocent words made Alaric smile more than any business award ever had. Maris eventually explained that they were celebrating Rowan's perfect school attendance. She worked 2 jobs after losing her husband several years earlier in a tragic construction accident. Every day required careful budgeting. Restaurant visits happened only once or twice each year because Rowan believed special memories mattered more than expensive gifts. She admitted that sharing their table had seemed like the right thing to do because nobody deserved to eat alone on their birthday. Those simple words settled deeply inside Alaric's heart. For years he had attended glamorous charity galas where people applauded generosity while secretly competing for attention. Yet this struggling mother had shown him genuine compassion without expecting anything in return. Hours passed surprisingly quickly. They laughed over small stories, shared dessert, and watched sunlight brighten the streets outside. Alaric realized he had spent almost an entire afternoon without thinking about stock prices, board meetings, or quarterly reports. Instead, he found himself listening to Rowan explain why every person deserved a second chance because everyone has sad days. When the bill arrived, Maris quietly reached for it despite knowing it would stretch her limited budget. Before she could speak, Alaric gently covered the check. She immediately protested, explaining she had invited him, not the other way around. Respecting her dignity, Alaric suggested they consider it a shared birthday gift between strangers who had become unexpected friends. After a brief pause, she accepted with grateful eyes rather than obligation. Walking outside together, they discovered Rowan staring at a music performer playing an old violin in the town square. Families gathered around while children danced across the pavement. Alaric noticed how naturally Maris encouraged Rowan to appreciate simple moments rather than expensive entertainment. It reminded him of the childhood he had nearly forgotten. Later that afternoon, curiosity led Alaric to quietly ask one of his assistants to learn more about Maris, not to interfere with her life, but because he sensed she carried burdens far heavier than she admitted. What he discovered broke his heart. She was weeks behind on rent. Her son's school fees were overdue. Medical bills from her late husband's final hospital stay still haunted her years later. Despite her relentless effort to repay every dollar honestly, Alaric could have erased every problem with one signature, but something inside him stopped. He knew that anonymous money alone would solve today's crisis while leaving tomorrow unchanged. Instead, he visited the neighborhood where Maris worked at a small community bakery before beginning her evening shift cleaning office buildings. That he entered quietly one afternoon and watched customers smile because of her kindness. Even after standing for hours, she greeted every person warmly. She remembered children's favorite pastries, elderly customers' names, and never allowed anyone to leave without wishing them a wonderful day. She possessed something far more valuable than wealth. She made people feel seen. That evening Alaric offered her a position managing a new chain of neighborhood cafes his company planned to open. The job included excellent pay, healthcare, flexible hours for Rowan, and opportunities for advancement. At first she refused, believing it was charity disguised as employment. Alaric patiently explained that he had spent years searching for leaders who understood people better than profits. Her compassion had already proven she was exactly the kind of person he wanted helping shape the company's future. Months passed, the first cafe became wildly successful because customers returned not only for good food but because they felt welcomed. Employees admired Maris because she treated everyone with fairness and respect. She remembered birthdays, celebrated small victories, and created an environment where nobody felt invisible. Meanwhile, Alaric changed as well. Instead of spending every evening inside empty penthouses, he began visiting the cafes, speaking with employees, listening to customers, and volunteering at community events sponsored by the business. For the first time in decades, newspapers noticed not just his financial achievements but his remarkable transformation into someone deeply connected with ordinary people. The greatest change came through Rowan. The little boy insisted that every birthday deserved balloons, homemade cake, and at least one embarrassing song. He declared that birthdays should never again belong to lonely people. His childlike determination made everyone laugh, including Alaric, who found himself looking forward to family dinners more than executive meetings. Exactly 1 year after that unforgettable afternoon, the same restaurant hosted another birthday celebration. This time, Alaric arrived early, but the hostess smiled the moment she saw him. Every table had already been reserved not by wealthy clients or famous celebrities but by families whose lives had been quietly touched through Maris's cafes and Alaric's growing community projects. Elderly neighbors, employees, single parents, teachers, firefighters, bakery customers, and local children filled the dining room with joyful excitement. When Alaric entered, the entire restaurant stood together and sang happy birthday. He could not hold back the tears. Looking across the room, he saw Maris smiling proudly while Rowan carried a handmade birthday card decorated with uneven stars and bright crayons. Inside were simple words written carefully in a child's handwriting. Nobody should ever eat alone. At that moment, Alaric realized his greatest investment had never been in buildings, companies, or markets. It had been in opening his heart after years of closing it to the world. One seat offered by a struggling single mother had given him something priceless, a family built not by blood but by kindness. Before we reach the end of this story, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment with the words, "Kindness always finds a way." Your message may inspire someone who desperately needs hope today. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Hub. Every act of support helps us spread more stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Sometimes life doesn't change because of extraordinary miracles. Sometimes it changes because one ordinary person notices another person's loneliness and chooses to make room at the table. A chair pulled out with kindness can become the beginning of healing, friendship, purpose, and hope. And perhaps the greatest gift anyone can receive is not wealth, success, or recognition, but the simple assurance that no matter how lonely the journey has been, there will always be someone willing to say, "Come, there's a place for you here."